Louisville, home of the best scrapper, also home of the best rap.
You an American, right? You an American, right? Where was Manny Pacquiao?
What up, what up? You're watching Red Room Sports, home of Ali Land, Boxing Talk, the Louisville Cardinals Daily, and the Ghetto Angler Fishing, only on the weekends. Alright, y'all, got a boxing news topic as usual for today. And the topic of the day is going to be Manny Pacquiao KOs Errol Spence Jr. in Texas Stadium Summer 2021. That's right, y'all. So I got the big homie Manny Pacquiao taking out the truth Errol Spence Jr. and I got him doing it this year, man. So, you know, a lot of news surrounding Manny Pacquiao right now. The Conor McGregor
talks are intensifying for this year. I am excited for a Manny Pacquiao bout. It's looking like it will take place this year. What time this year, I'm not sure. We're going to have some good discussions with Dana. It will certainly attain a boxing world title. Excited to do that against Emmanuel Pacquiao.
Situation, the WBA situation, the mandatory situation, you know, the next fight, who's it going to be?
I'll take Pacquiao. I'll take Pacquiao. I'll take Pacquiao. I felt like he ran. I'll take Pacquiao. I'll take Pacquiao. I'll take Pacquiao. I felt like he ran. I'll take Pacquiao.
Okay. And he ran from you?
Hey.
Are you saying Manny Pacquiao ran from you?
I'll take Pacquiao. I felt like he ran.
Can I ask you a question? Where was Manny Pacquiao?
Dunking.
Where was Manny Pacquiao?
Dunking.
Can I ask you a question? Where was Manny Pacquiao?
Dunking. Errol the Truth Spence.
You know, everybody's saying right now that the Conor McGregor fight is set in stone as Manny Pacquiao's return fight. And, you know, then we had McGregor come out and say in his last interview, you know, he's about to fight Dustin Poirier this weekend, that it's a go. You know, they want to do it, but he's not sure of the exact date. You know, he was alluding to later on in 2021. So to me, that leaves the floor open for Manny Pacquiao to either fight his mandatory, to fight Errol Spence Jr., or fight Terrence Bud Crawford. And if Pacquiao's going to fight Spence Jr. and he does it without a tune-up, I would say, you know, it's going to be a tough fight. But if Pacquiao actually does come back in April after the Senate session in the Philippines, like he said he was going to do, and take a tune-up, either Mikey Garcia, Jordanius, you guys, and then fight Spence, then I say Pacquiao, depending on what we see, has a high chance of taking Errol Spence Jr. out, simply because Pacquiao stated that Errol Spence has lost a step. He looks slow, and we know what Pacquiao does against slow fighters. You know, very predictable fighters who throw looping punches, fighters who have slow feet. You know, Pacquiao is a very speedy combination punching welterweight, and you don't have too many of those type of guys out there. Plus, he's a southpaw, so you don't have too many of those type of guys out there in boxing today. So it's really tougher for Errol Spence Jr. to prepare for Manny Pacquiao than it is for Pacquiao to prepare for Spence Jr. Because I consider name off the names of bigger fighters that he's ran through. You got your Cottos, your Margaritos, your Brandon Rioses, you got your Josh Clottys. It's a number of guys who are just bigger, supposed to be stronger and better welterweights than Manny Pacquiao, that he just walked through these guys. So, you know, I don't see it being any difference when he takes on Errol Spence Jr. in the summertime. Hopefully it'll be in the summertime, but we might get lucky and get that fight a little sooner. Because if Pacquiao decides, hey, I don't want to fight in April, maybe I'll fight in Cinco de Mayo, or de Mayo, however you want to pronounce it. You know, we potentially could get a Pacquiao Spence fight in May, you know, somewhere around the Derby time. So be looking out for that, because it would make more sense for Pacquiao to do it then, because there'd be a lot more money involved. So if he's trying to make it to where he can gain a lot more financially off of a Spence fight versus the risk of him potentially being beat and that being the end of his career. The Cinco de Mayo, there's a reason Mayweather picked the Derby weekend for most of his fights, and it's just because there's a lot of betting going on that weekend. So if you want to put your fight that may not have as many fans attending the fight as would be in a normal circumstance, then I think it would be better to do it around that Cinco de Mayo date. So potentially, if Pacquiao is going to make his return to boxing, it's not going to be Conor McGregor, because remember, McGregor has to beat Dustin Poirier first, for there to even be a possibility of him fighting Manny Pacquiao. So, I would say wait for that Poirier fight, and then we'll probably be getting an official statement from Manny Pacquiao. But if you want to ask me if it plays out any differently, I mean, because if it's true what McGregor said, it's not going to happen early, it's going to happen late. And I doubt that the WBA is going to let Manny Pacquiao just go through April, May, June, July, and not have defended that belt, or even made an attempt to defend that belt. So I would say May, we could see a potential Pacquiao. April, May, we could see a potential Pacquiao fight. I would lean more toward May than that April date, because I think, like I said earlier, it makes more sense as far as making money off of a fight. Now let's break down a little bit of this article I was reading. So I was reading a part of her. Many believe that the IBF WBC champ may have lost a spring in his step due to his car crash early in the year. Spence, however, made light work of Garcia and outpointed him with scores of 116-112. Even Manny Pacquiao said that he feels like Spence has lost a step. I don't know if he's lost a step or if it's just his style. I think it's just his style. And I think that style plays very well into Pacquiao's hands, and I think he knows it. And I think those are just trigger words he used to point out the fact he feels like his style plays into Pacquiao's hands. And if you watch how Spence moves, I mean, he never has been a move around the ring speedy type of guy. He's never been that type of guy. If you compare him to Terrence Crawford, and you'll see their body movement is completely different. There's nothing similar about those two guys. But when you compare, I would say this for Errol Spence Jr. If Spence Jr. wants to beat Pacquiao, he's going to have to Jeff Horn him all night long. And I've said this before. I'm not sure if I'm the first one who spoke about this, but his whole strategy has to surround what Jeff Horn was able to do to Manny Pacquiao. And actually, that Jeff Horn strategy was something Tim Bradley actually tried it first against Pacquiao. It just didn't work in his favor because he's a smaller fighter, where Jeff Horn's a bigger fighter, and leaning on the smaller fighter and trying to bully him and throw dirty uppercuts and elbows and headbutts and things. It just didn't play in Bradley's hands the way it did in Jeff Horn's hands. But actually, I think Tim Bradley deserves credit for being the first one to try that strategy against Pacquiao. So if Errol Spence wants to win, he's going to have to adapt some of what Tim Bradley used and some of what Jeff Horn used when they defeated Manny Pacquiao. Because I don't think the Floyd Mayweather way of boxing will work for Errol Spence Jr. trying to stay in the defensive shell. Because I think, unlike Mayweather, Spence isn't that quick. Mayweather's a lot quicker on his toes. So that even though I feel like Mayweather lost when he fought Pacquiao, and I think Mayweather has lost a few times in his boxing career, if you ask me, but I think if he was to try to mimic what Mayweather did when he beat Pacquiao, I think it wouldn't work as much because he has heavy feet, man. He's flat-footed, so he doesn't move around the ring as fluently as Mayweather does. So his best bet is to bully Pacquiao all night long. But if you ask me, how's this fight going to end when it does take place? I would say Pacquiao puts combination punches on Spence and it overwhelms him in a similar fashion to what he did to Keith Thurman. I think Thurman it would have been the perfect tune-up fight for Spence if none of this other stuff happened in the world. If none of this pandemic stuff happened, if Pacquiao fought Spence, beat him, waited 6 months, and then he would have fought Keith Thurman, beat him, and then waited 6 months and fought Spence, it would have been amazing because Keith Thurman would have been a perfect tune-up fight for Errol Spence fight. And I feel like now the only perfect tune-up fight for Spence is either Crawford or Eubanks, you guys. And, like it or not, that's just my opinion. I think he can still beat Spence without a tune-up fight. It would just take a lot more out of him, in my personal opinion. I think he just needs that tune-up to get his timing back, against a worthy opponent. 2 years is a long time to be laid off, man. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section. I didn't mean to go on too long. But is Manny Pacquiao going to KO Errol Spence Jr. in Dallas Stadium when they do finally square up, man, this summer? And I believe it will happen, man. I'm betting all my chips it's going to happen. I think it will actually get I'm not saying he's going to fight Spence before McGregor, but I think we will get a Pacquiao fight before he fights Conor McGregor. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section. Hit that like button for me. Please subscribe. Tell your family, friends, partners, homies, auntie, uncle, cousin, everybody you know about Ali Land Boxing Talk, Cardinal Red Room Sports. And you know what I'm saying? We're trying to grow the platform as big as we can get it, people. With your help, we can get there, man. You know what I'm saying? So join into the success, brother. Support Cardinal Red, man, and we are out of here.
You an American, right? Where was Manny Pacquiao?
Louisville, home of the best scrapper, also home of the best rapper.